Chosen one before anything else, understand this. Either they confess or the police will. Because the truth behind what was plotted against you is too big to stay buried. Someone is cracking under pressure. The guilt, the fear, the surveillance, the unexpected inquiries, it's all tightening around them like a vice. But here's the part you must not overlook. You didn't survive by chance. You were being guided, shielded, positioned. Now the light hits the web, and every hidden plot is exposed. Let me tell you who's been working against you. Because this isn't about strangers or random haters. These are people who know you, people who've been close enough to study your patterns, close enough to identify vulnerabilities, close enough to plan your destruction with precision. Some share your blood. Family members who should have protected you became predators instead. Others share your history. Former partners who couldn't handle your evolution. Associates who resented your light. And in the darkness, these people found each other, formed an alliance built on mutual hatred of everything you represent. There's someone at the center of this who operates with cold calculation, completely devoid of conscience. This person doesn't believe in anything beyond what can be controlled or manipulated or profited from. Spirituality seems like foolishness. Divine intervention feels like a joke. Intelligence and careful planning appear to be enough to get away with anything. And the planning has been extensive, watching you, learning your routines, mapping your movements, looking for the perfect moment to strike. Then there's another person operating differently, where one approaches with blunt force, the other uses subtle manipulation. Masks and roles come naturally. Playing victim while being villain is an art form here. This person has been using corrupted spiritual practices against you, sending lustful energy to cloud your judgment, deploying monitor spirits to watch you in private moments, building energetic attachments designed to create confusion in your clarity, reporting your emotional state, your vulnerabilities, your moments of weakness, so attacks could be coordinated. These people have been meeting in secret, sharing information, comparing notes on your habits, discussing the best ways to isolate you, to weaken you, to set you up for whatever final move was planned. And there was a final move. This wasn't just about making your life difficult. This was about ending it, permanently. The goal was to have you gone in a way that looked natural or accidental or self-inflicted, attending your funeral and collecting rewards while hiding blood on their hands. Money was involved, either inheritance expected when you were gone, or insurance to be collected, or assets to be claimed. The value of your death was calculated, and the decision was made that you were worth more absent than alive. That's how far this goes. That's how dark this gets. Methods were researched. Possibilities were discussed. Approaches that would avoid suspicion were planned, and genuine belief in success was maintained. Your enemies thought you were still who you used to be. The entire strategy was based on an outdated version of you. No account was taken of the transformation you've been undergoing, the healing you've been doing, the frequency you've been raising. Attacks were designed for someone operating at a lower vibration, and those attacks hit a wall. You've been processing darkness faster than anyone can send it, transmuting negativity before it takes root. Your spiritual immune system has been training for exactly this fight, and every test made it stronger. The plan had layers, sophistication. First came isolation. You needed to be separated from anyone who would notice if something was off, anyone who'd ask questions, anyone who'd investigate. So energy got sent designed to make you antisocial, to make you withdraw, to make you feel like you didn't fit anywhere. The goal was for your loneliness to look like your choice instead of manipulation. You were supposed to be the injured animal that falls behind the herd, the weakest one that gets picked off while everyone else moves forward. But isolation alone wasn't enough. Weakening was necessary. Vibration needed to be lowered. Operating from confusion and desperation instead of clarity and power became the target. So escalation happened. Spiritual attacks designed to corrupt your moral compass, to make behaviors that violated your values suddenly seem acceptable, to make substances you'd never touch suddenly seem appealing, to make choices that would derail your destiny suddenly seem reasonable. The attempt was to fundamentally rewire who you are, because as long as you stayed connected to Source, stayed aligned with your true nature, stayed operating from your highest self, you'd be too strong to touch. Think about nature documentaries, how predators watch herds, how the weakest target gets identified. The one limping, the one separated by just a small distance, that one gets taken down while the rest survive. That's exactly what was being engineered. A scenario where you'd be isolated and weakened and vulnerable, where no one would be close enough to intervene, where the attack could happen without witnesses, where your death could be explained away without suspicion. And it gets darker, much darker. This wasn't theoretical. This wasn't just bad energy or negative intentions. There was actual planning for physical harm, for removing you from this earth in ways that would look like accident or tragedy or self-inflicted choice. Methods were discussed, approaches were researched, opportunities were waited for, and all of this was happening while you were just living your life, completely unaware that people you once trusted were literally plotting murder. But something started to shift. The battlefield was changing in ways nobody could control. You kept following those intuitive hits, those sudden urges to cleanse your space, to reorganize everything, to throw things away, to burn sage, to pray protection over your home. Each time you followed that guidance, you were clearing away energetic work, dismantling spiritual constructions, breaking attachments, closing doors that needed to stay open for the scheme to work. You were winning a war you didn't even know you were fighting. If this message activated your knowing, hype this video to connect with more chosen ones on this journey. While all of this was happening in the physical realm, there was a war being fought in the spiritual realm. A war you couldn't see with natural eyes but could feel in your spirit. You've been waking up exhausted some mornings despite sleeping through the night, because you've been fighting battles in other dimensions, working in realms where your spirit receives upgrades and teachings your conscious mind can't fully comprehend. Your dreams have been showing you symbolic warnings. Your spiritual body has been defending territories you didn't know existed. Guardian forces have been intercepting the monitor spirits that got sent, casting out the entities that got deployed, deflecting the curses that got spoken. Every single attack hit your spiritual covering and bounced back to the sender, amplified. The spells that got cast started backfiring. The rituals that got performed started reversing. The dark magic that got directed at your life started returning multiplied. That's spiritual law. What you send out comes back. And when you send darkness towards someone under divine protection, it doesn't just fail. It becomes your own destruction. Your enemies started experiencing the very things intended for you. Restlessness, isolation, fear, confusion, not because you attacked back, but because that's how the universe balances itself. Destruction got planted. Now consequences are being harvested. Every meditation you've done strengthened your spiritual armor. Every prayer offered reinforced your divine connection. Every moment spent in stillness upgraded your discernment. Every boundary set fortified your energy field. Every toxic person removed cleared space for protection to operate more effectively. Addictive energy got sent designed to make you crave substances that would compromise your judgment. Your body rejected it. Confusion got sent to cloud your path. Your clarity cut through it like a blade. Isolation got sent to separate you from support. You discovered you're actually more powerful in solitude. Fear got sent to make you operate from panic. Your faith dissolved it on contact. Every single attack launched either bounced back or got neutralized, and panic started setting in because something was protecting you that couldn't be seen, measured, or understood. Your enemies are panicking now, absolutely terrified, because the consequences of what's been done are catching up faster than anticipated. More time was expected, better track covering was assumed, secrets were believed safe, wrong on every count. Something has shifted. There's been a change in the atmosphere. An acceleration of divine justice that can be felt but can't be explained. What was thought buried is being dug up. What was thought hidden is being exposed. What was thought forgotten is being remembered. One person can't sleep anymore, tossing and turning every night, getting up to pace, unable to find rest because fear is eating from the inside. Not guilt about what was done to you, fear about getting caught, fear about consequences that can be seen coming but can't be escaped, restlessness like someone on the run, even though no official charges have been filed yet, moving from place to place, unable to settle, conscience is chasing even if law hasn't caught up yet. The other person is trying to maintain appearances, trying to act normal, convincing everyone including themselves that everything's fine. But the mask is slipping, the performance is getting harder to maintain, friends are noticing something's off, family members are asking if everything's okay, co-workers are picking up on strange energy, the facade is cracking under pressure, and holding it together is becoming impossible. Both know the confession is coming, just don't know how, or when, or through what channel, don't know if one is going to break first and tell everything, don't know if evidence is going to surface that exposes both, don't know if someone else involved is going to turn informant to save themselves, just know it's coming, and that not knowing is worse than knowing, because preparation is impossible, controlling the narrative is impossible, the alliance between them is crumbling. When criminals feel pressure, protecting each other stops and protecting self starts, looking for someone to blame, someone to throw under the bus, someone to sacrifice for personal salvation. Neither wants to take full responsibility for what was planned together, turning on each other, and that fracture is creating openings for truth to pour through. Here's what your enemies don't know. Or maybe suspicions exist, but desperate hopes remain that it's not true. The authorities are involved, not just spiritual authorities, physical authorities, law enforcement, government agencies, people with badges and legal power, and the ability to bring charges and build cases and put criminals behind bars. Someone somewhere picked up on what was being done, and now surveillance is active. Phone lines are being monitored, not yours, chosen one, theirs. The people who plotted against you are the ones under surveillance. Calls are being recorded, messages are being read, movements are being tracked, because somewhere along the way, the scheme got flagged in the system. Maybe a pattern in communications triggered an alert. Maybe a financial transaction made no logical sense. Maybe a tip came from someone who overheard something they shouldn't have. However it happened, someone with authority knows something is deeply wrong. Evidence is being collected methodically. Witnesses are being identified and interviewed. Timelines are being established with precision. Cases are being prepared with the kind of thoroughness that leaves no room for reasonable doubt. Not for minor infractions either, for serious charges, the kind that carry significant prison sentences. Conspiracy, attempted murder, fraud, financial exploitation, whatever specific laws were violated in the attempt to harm you, those are the charges being prepared. Digital forensics teams have been thorough. Messages that were thought permanently deleted have been recovered. Conversations discussing your routines, your schedule, your vulnerabilities, ways to make your death look accidental, who would benefit financially, how to avoid suspicion, all of it stored somewhere in the cloud, or on a server, or in a backup system nobody knew existed. Metadata from photos reveals when and where pictures of you were taken. GPS data shows proximity to locations you frequented, at times when claims of being elsewhere were made. Search histories paint a damning picture of premeditation and intent. Financial investigators uncovered patterns that tell their own story. Insurance policies taken out with you as the named insured. Beneficiary designations changed without your knowledge or with forged signatures. Applications filled out claiming relationships that gave insurable interest. Loans taken with the expectation of sudden repayment. Credit cards maxed out in anticipation of a windfall. Conversations with financial planners about inheritance law. Research into how quickly insurance companies pay death claims, all of it documented, all of it traceable, all of it proof of motive. Communication records reveal the conspiracy in stunning detail. Phone calls between conspirators at strategic times, right before and after significant events in your life. Calls that lasted extended periods when claims of barely speaking were made later. Text messages supposedly deleted but recovered from carrier databases. Encrypted messaging apps that weren't as secure as assumed. Voicemails that captured planning discussions. All of it creating a timeline that shows coordination, premeditation, intent to harm. Witness interviews have been revealing too. People who were present during conversations where plans were discussed, co-workers who overheard phone calls, friends who were told things in confidence, family members who were uncomfortable with what was witnessed but didn't know what to do about it. All of them giving statements now, all of them providing pieces of the puzzle, all of them helping investigators understand the full scope of what was planned. Some witnesses didn't even realize what information was important until investigators asked specific questions. Physical surveillance has captured behaviors that contradict innocent narratives being maintained. Video footage from security cameras showing presence in locations that were claimed never to have been visited. License plate readers tracking vehicles to places connected to planning. ATM cameras showing cash withdrawals for transactions meant to be kept off the record. Store security footage showing purchases of items with no legitimate purpose but making perfect sense if planning what investigators suspect. All of it contradicting alibis. All of it creating evidence that can't be explained away. The authorities even consulted with experts. Forensic psychologists analyzed behavioral patterns. Financial experts explained complex transactions. Technology specialists broke down digital communications. Each expert added another layer of understanding to the case. Each consultation strengthened the prosecution's ability to prove not just what happened, but why. Not just the actions, but the intent behind them. And intent is everything in cases like this. Intent is what separates unfortunate accidents from premeditated attempts to end your life. What makes this investigation particularly powerful is the scope. Authorities aren't just looking at what was tried against you. The examination extends to entire histories, other people who might have been harmed, other schemes that might have been run, other victims who never reported because believing anyone would listen seemed impossible. Pattern evidence shows this wasn't a one-time thing. This is who these people are, what these people do, how these people operate when thinking no one's watching, and now everyone's watching. Now everything's being documented. Now patterns are being established that will make conviction almost certain. The legal system doesn't play games with conspiracy to commit murder. The charges being prepared carry serious time, not minimal sentences with probation, not slaps on the wrist with community service. Actual prison time measured in substantial periods, years behind bars, decades potentially. Especially when financial motive is proven, when premeditation is documented, when coordination between multiple people is established. The courts take these cases extremely seriously because the intent was to take a life, your life. When arrests happen, and arrests are coming, the process will be thorough. Early morning raids are possible. Multiple officers, search warrants, seizure of electronic devices, confiscation of financial records, everything needed to ensure evidence is preserved. Your enemies will be read their rights, taken into custody, processed through the system, photographed, fingerprinted, placed in holding cells while awaiting bail hearings. And during those hearings, prosecutors will argue that people who plotted murder are flight risks, that releasing them poses danger to you and potentially others. Bail might be denied entirely, or set so high that coming up with the amount becomes impossible. Look, you already know the attacks weren't random, and if you're paying attention you can feel it. Their walls are closing in. So let's talk about what we're doing about it. That's why I built Destiny Engine. It generates personalized sequences that help you rewire betrayal into transcendence, turn isolation into sacred power, and transform their downfall into your rise. We are using the Dark Elite's own weapons against them, taking their declassified consciousness technology that programmed competition and scarcity and repurposing it to serve cooperative intelligence. The beauty is you don't even have to lift a finger. You put on the headphones, press play, and your subconscious is rewired while your enemies collapse under the weight of their own lies. This is why I created it in the beginning, so everything they did to break you becomes fuel for your purpose. The collective upgrade is underway. Start your Destiny Engine for $1 today and watch divine justice accelerate in your life. Link in the description. The legal process will unfold methodically. Arraignments where charges are formally read. plea negotiations where defense attorneys realize the evidence is overwhelming and recommend accepting deals, or trials where juries hear every detail of what was planned, where prosecutors present timelines, where expert witnesses explain findings, where you might be called to testify about your relationship with these people, about interactions you had, about behaviors you noticed, about fears you experienced. Your voice gets heard in this process. Your truth gets validated in the most official way possible. Defense attorneys will try various strategies, claiming mental health issues, suggesting substance abuse problems, arguing that talk about harming you was never serious, attempting to paint you as somehow deserving of animosity, trying to create reasonable doubt where none exists. But the evidence is too strong, the documentation too thorough, the patterns too clear. Juries won't be fooled by manipulation tactics that might have worked on individuals. The collective wisdom of people hearing facts tends to cut through deception. Sentencing hearings will be significant moments. This is where consequences become concrete, where judges read aloud the charges, where victim impact statements can be delivered, where you can speak directly about how this has affected your life, your sense of safety, your ability to trust, your mental and emotional well-being. And judges listen to victim impact statements, take them seriously, consider them when determining appropriate punishment within sentencing guidelines. Your pain matters in this process. Your trauma is acknowledged. Your suffering is validated. Prison time is just the beginning of consequences. Criminal records follow people forever. Background checks reveal convictions for conspiracy to commit murder. Employment becomes nearly impossible in many fields. Housing applications get denied. Professional licenses get revoked. Social standing gets destroyed. Relationships with family and friends who stood by them might crumble under the weight of truth. Everything built on deception collapses when light exposes foundation cracks. The life known before arrest will never be recovered. The reputation enjoyed before exposure will never be restored. Civil lawsuits might follow criminal convictions. You might have grounds to sue for emotional distress, for therapy costs, for lost opportunities if their actions affected your work or education, for punitive damages meant to punish particularly malicious behavior. Even if you choose not to pursue civil cases, government might seize assets as proceeds from criminal activity, especially if any financial fraud was involved. Homes might be lost, vehicles might be taken, bank accounts might be frozen, investments might be liquidated. Everything thought protected by getting rid of you might end up forfeited to the state instead. There will be a specific moment when everything changes, when the confession happens, or when law enforcement makes contact, or when the first arrest gets made. That moment will feel surreal, like watching a movie about someone else's life, like observing from outside your body. The thing you've been sensing, the danger you've been feeling, the conspiracy you've been suspecting, it all becomes undeniably real in that moment, and that moment will hit differently than you expect. Part of you will feel vindicated. Finally, proof that your intuition was accurate, that your gut feelings were legitimate warnings, that your decision to distance yourself was wisdom, that protective instinct that made you cleanse your space and set boundaries and remove toxic people, all of it confirmed as necessary. You weren't overreacting, you weren't paranoid, you weren't dramatic, you were picking up on real threat and responding appropriately. That validation matters. Let yourself feel satisfaction in knowing you were right. Part of you will feel grief, because even when people show themselves to be capable of terrible things, part of you remembers who you thought these people were. Memories of better times will surface, moments when you trusted them, believed in them, cared about them, and grieving the death of those relationships is necessary. Not grieving who these people actually are, but grieving who you thought they were, who you hoped they were, who you needed them to be. That version died, that illusion shattered, and mourning what was lost, even if what was lost was never real, is part of healing. Part of you will feel anger, righteous rage at betrayal, at violation of trust, at the audacity of people you cared about, deciding your life was worth less than their financial gain, at time wasted on relationships with people capable of such darkness, at energy invested in caring about people who were simultaneously plotting your death. That anger is valid. That fury is justified. Let yourself feel it fully, express it safely, use it as fuel for your healing journey. But don't let it consume you. Don't let it become the defining feature of your next chapter. Part of you will feel fear, retroactive terror about what could have happened, about how close danger came, about moments when you were vulnerable and didn't know threats were active, about times when you trusted people who were simultaneously scheming against you. That fear is normal. That anxiety is expected. Your nervous system is processing the reality of genuine threat. Give yourself space to feel scared, to acknowledge that you survived something that could have gone very differently, to honor the protection that kept you alive. And part of you, the strongest part, the warrior part, the chosen one part, will feel power, unshakable knowing that you're exactly who you've always suspected you were. Protected by forces beyond human understanding, connected to source in ways that literally kept you alive, operating with intuition so sharp it steered you away from danger you couldn't consciously see. This experience isn't breaking you, it's revealing the depth of your strength, the power of your connection, the reality of your protection, and that power is what you carry forward. The moment is here, the confession is coming. You're about to get the truth delivered in one of two ways, and either way it's going to hit hard even though you already suspected most of it. Either one person breaks under pressure and tells you everything first, trying to control the narrative before authorities do, or law enforcement shows up with official information as part of their investigation. Either way, confirmation is coming, validation is arriving, proof is about to land that every intuitive hit you had was accurate. If the confession comes directly, understand the motivation clearly. No conscience suddenly grew, no care about your healing or closure exists. The confession happens because terror exists, because walls are closing in, and one last manipulation is being attempted. The hope is that if you hear it first, if it's framed a certain way, maybe you'll show mercy, maybe you'll feel sympathy, maybe you'll actually protect someone from consequences. Attempts will be made to minimize what was done, making it sound less serious than it was, claims that nobody would have actually gone through with it, saying anger or confusion or going through something caused temporary insanity. Attempts will be made to blame you, saying you drove someone to it, claiming you deserved it because of something you did or didn't do, playing victim, crying about trauma, talking about pain, trying to make you feel sorry for someone instead of holding accountability for plotting your death. Don't fall for any of it. Don't let manipulation work even in confession mode, because people who could scheme to end your life are not people who suddenly become trustworthy because corners were reached. If anything, danger increases, desperation increases, willingness to say or do whatever it takes to save themselves increases. Even confession is a weapon being used, still trying to control you, still trying to benefit from your compassion, still trying to turn your light toward darkness. If the confession comes from authorities, that's different, that's official, that's documented evidence being shared with you as part of an active investigation. You'll be told what's known, what's been uncovered through surveillance and investigation, what can be proven with documentation. Cooperation will probably be needed, your testimony, your statement about relationships with these people, questions that might seem irrelevant but are actually building cases. Details might get shared that shock you, or confirm suspicions you've been carrying, or reveal layers you didn't even know existed. Either way the truth arrives, intense emotions are going to come up. Anger that it went this far, that people you cared about could be capable of something this dark. Sadness that trust was betrayed in the deepest way possible. Fear about what might have happened if things had gone differently, if your intuition hadn't been so sharp, if your protection hadn't been so thorough, if divine intervention hadn't orchestrated your survival. All those feelings are valid, all those reactions are normal. Let yourself feel them without judgment. You hold all the power, not them, not anymore. So much energy got spent plotting to take your power, to end your life, to remove your light from the world, and in doing so, something got given to you that can never be taken back. Absolute moral authority, unquestionable victim status, the legal and spiritual high ground, and the gift of seeing people for exactly who everyone is, without any illusions remaining. You don't have to wonder anymore if you were wrong about anyone. You don't have to question your judgment. You don't have to give benefit of doubt. You have proof now. Documented, investigated, legally verified proof that your intuition was right all along, that the red flags you saw were real, that the danger you sensed was legitimate, that the bad feeling you had was your spiritual protection system accurately detecting threat. You were never paranoid, never dramatic, never overreacting. You were discerning, aware, connected to truth. This validation is powerful medicine. It heals the part of you that second-guessed yourself, the part that wondered if you were being too harsh or too suspicious or too unforgiving, the part that got trained to doubt your own perceptions, that gaslighting that happened, making you question your reality. It's over now. You have evidence that your reality was accurate, your perceptions were sharp, your boundaries were necessary, your distance was wisdom. But here's something important about closure that you need to hear. Closure doesn't come from their confession. It doesn't come from apology. It doesn't come from punishment. Real closure comes from you deciding that you're complete with this chapter, that you've extracted every lesson, processed every emotion, healed every wound, and you're ready to close the door on this experience and walk forward into your future. Now we get to the most important part: what you do with this information, how you respond to vindication, how you carry yourself now that truth is confirmed, because this is where you demonstrate that you're not just a survivor, you're a warrior. You're not just protected, you're powerful. You're not just chosen, you're ready to dominate the next chapter of your life. First principle of warrior consciousness: you don't gloat, you don't celebrate downfall publicly, you don't need to post about it, you don't need to tell everyone what happened, you don't need public validation, because you have divine vindication. That's infinitely more valuable. Let the legal system handle the public record. Let karma handle the spiritual balancing. You focus on your elevation, your expansion, your execution of the destiny you were protected to fulfill. Second principle: you don't seek additional revenge. Justice is already being served through proper channels. Karma is already operating according to spiritual law. You don't need to add to it. In fact, if you do, you risk creating your own karmic debt. You risk lowering your vibration to match others. You risk becoming what you fought against. Stay in your power. Stay above the warfare. Let divine justice handle what divine justice handles best. Third principle: you do forgive. Not for anyone else's benefit, but for yours. Forgiveness doesn't mean what was done was acceptable. Doesn't mean you reconcile or trust again. Doesn't mean full consequences shouldn't be faced. Forgiveness means you release the energetic tie. You cut the cord. You refuse to carry hatred and bitterness and anger into your next chapter. You choose your peace over anyone else's punishment. You prioritize your freedom over anyone else's suffering. Fourth principle: you do heal completely. You process everything you've been through. Feel everything you need to feel. Grieve what was lost. Celebrate what was preserved. Thank the forces that protected you. Honor the journey that brought you here. Get professional help if you need it. Do ceremony. Create art. Journal. Meditate. Pray. However you integrate trauma and extract wisdom, do that thoroughly. Don't skip steps. Don't rush past the healing to get to the next thing. Fifth principle: you do grow exponentially. Let this experience sharpen your discernment about people, strengthen your boundaries to fortress level, deepen your spiritual practices beyond what you thought possible, expand your understanding of protection and warfare, and divine justice. You survived something that should have destroyed you. That survival gives you authority, anointing, wisdom, power. Own it fully. Step into the upgraded version of yourself without hesitation or false humility. Final principle: you do step into your destiny with absolute dominance. No more playing small. No more holding back because you're worried about who might come against you. You just survived people plotting your actual murder. What else could possibly intimidate you now? You have proof that you're covered, that you're protected, that no weapon formed against you can prosper. Walk in that confidence, live in that assurance, operate from that authority, dominate your field, excel in your purpose, execute your calling, without apology or limitation. You weren't preserved just to live a small, safe, comfortable life. You weren't kept alive just to avoid danger. You were protected because you have a purpose that darkness desperately wanted to prevent. You carry something the world needs. You're meant to do something that threatens the kingdom of shadows. Your enemies weren't attacking you randomly. Attacks came strategically. Because your light disrupts operations, because your rise signals fall, because your purpose interferes with plans. You're a chosen one, not as spiritual language to make you feel special, as literal reality. You were selected before you were born for a specific assignment, appointed to a particular purpose, anointed for a unique calling, and that choosing comes with protection, with backing, with resources, with support, with divine favor that confuses your enemies and opens impossible doors and orchestrates miraculous encounters and creates opportunities that couldn't happen through human effort alone. The work you're meant to do might be public or private, large-scale or intimate, famous or hidden. It doesn't matter what form it takes. What matters is that it's yours, that it's important, that it requires you to be alive and healthy and whole and connected to Source. That's why the protection was so thorough, why schemes failed so completely, why you're still here despite everything that got tried. Not by luck, not by chance, but by divine design, by intentional orchestration, by decree from forces that govern reality itself. The confession came, either directly or through law enforcement. Either way, you got confirmation, validation, proof. Let it strengthen you instead of breaking you. Let it deepen your faith instead of creating fear. Let it propel you forward instead of holding you back. Because you survived for a reason. You were protected for a purpose. You were preserved for a destiny that's bigger than this moment, bigger than these enemies, bigger than this warfare, bigger than anything you've experienced so far. Stand firm in your power. Your vindication is complete. Your protection is proven. Your enemies are exposed. Your justice is served. Your destiny is waiting. And everything you walked through prepared you for everything you're walking into. The battle is over. The war is won. The war is won. The next chapter is beginning, and it's going to be more powerful, more impactful, more fulfilling than anything that came before, because you're not just a survivor now, you're a warrior. You're not just protected now, you're positioned. You're not just chosen now, you're ready. Ready for the fullness of what you were born to be and do and become. Ready to dominate the destiny that no scheme could stop, no plot could derail, no enemy could destroy. You made it, chosen one. Now watch what happens